I'm surprised I'm doing a good job posting my X-Men reviews on the days I wanted them posted, like I did for part 1 on Monday, then part 2 yesterday. Then hopefully I could get part 3 out today because I just finished editing my Acolyte review that I had filmed last night. But yeah, after this, the next important videos I gotta do would be, I guess, my thoughts on X-Men 97 if I don't even get the chance to do that. Or I just give myself a break for today and just watch a couple of movies just to avoid YouTube because, oh my god. Oh my god! Oh my god! There's a possibility I might have gotten spoiled for Deadpool. I don't know. What the only thing that really could have spoiled it for me is the damn cast on Letterboxd. I don't know if it's just... This is gonna be so hard to avoid social media for the next 2 days! Okay, let's just get into the review. Hello everyone, welcome back to part 3 of my X-Men review series in preparation for Deadpool Wolverine that's coming out basically tomorrow night. Well, unfortunately, I won't see it tomorrow night. I am seeing it on Saturday, and the only thing that'll matter to me is that I get to dress up with D, which I probably have already brought this up, but I just thinking about going to seeing it by myself without my brother, as I had this plan. Like, no, there was no way I was gonna go through that. No. It's gonna be me and D dressed up in costume as Deadpool Wolverine, watching Marvel Studios Deadpool Wolverine, as I intended it to be. And also, I don't even know if I'm gonna get an audience reaction. I could try, but I'll cause myself some storage issues. You know what? I'm just gonna have to stay up late for the next couple of days. Maybe that'll help me out on avoiding social media. But anyways, part 1, I reviewed the original X-Men trilogy. Then part 2, X-Men First Class, then Days of Future Past. And now for part 3, we're gonna review X-Men Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, and I'm basically covering a rig review for the New Mutants because I know I did a review on it, like, maybe 3 years ago. But, yeah, I'm gonna try and make this quick and snappy and hopefully get it to at least 20 to 25 minutes long. Let's just shoot for that. We're already 3 minutes into this video. But last review, I mentioned something about an X-Men movie that I would consider to be the worst. One of these 3 is the worst, and you're gonna find out soon. But let's go ahead and talk about my thoughts on X-Men Apocalypse. So, I remember watching a trailer for this. In fact, when I rewatched it, as I had to show the trailer to my brother because he wanted to see a sneak peek of the next movie we watch after we had finished Days of Future Past, I actually got chills from watching that trailer. I remember that was a pretty cool trailer, but I didn't get to see that in theaters. I most likely saw that movie around, like, November 2016? I'm betting that's the time frame I saw it. It wasn't in theaters, sadly, because, like, X-Men Days of Future Past was probably the first and only X-Men movie I recall seeing. I mean, actually, what were the X-Men movies I saw in theaters? So there was X-Men Days of Future Past. There's no way I could have seen Deadpool, unfortunately. Same goes for Apocalypse. I did saw Logan, but I didn't see Deadpool 2 or Dark Phoenix or the New Mutants. Oh my god! Just those 2 movies I've seen in theaters? Just Days of Future Past and Logan? Well, make that 3 if I count Deadpool Wolverine. Okay, back to the review. So, X-Men Apocalypse is slightly a mixed bag for everybody. I don't know what their thoughts were all. I just figured it's like a mixed bag. Basically, like a step down compared to Days of Future Past, which I would consider to be the best X-Men movie in the entire series. And I probably only saw this movie once or twice. I don't know. It's either between twice or 3 times. But it has been a while since I've seen X-Men Apocalypse. And I remember liking it back then. And having to rewatch it recently. Yeah, I still like it to this day. Now, I may have some nitpicks here and there, but as I rewatch this movie, I'm like, why does no one like this movie again? I don't get it. I kind of enjoyed it. Sure, it's not perfect. Days of Future Past is definitely better than this, but it's fun. It does give off vibes of X-Men The Last Stand, but I guess this movie is slightly better than The Last Stand. I don't know. This is a video I saw from Doomblazer where we start off good with the first movie, then we have a superior sequel, and then we fall off flat in the end, which would be this video.
It's honestly incredible how Fox managed to fumble the second X-Men trilogy the same way they fumbled the first one. The first one's good, the second one's great, and the third one ruined it.
Sadly, I could not download that on TikTok, so I had to screen record it. Hopefully you don't mind, Doomblazer. Shout out Doomblazer, definitely check out his socials on YouTube and TikTok. But like I mentioned, I'll see why folks dislike this movie, and I could give it an 8 out of 10 just for me having a good time watching this movie, but I got my nitpicks here and there. But as I mentioned last video, my biggest issue with these X-Men movies are the timelines. And yeah, I don't know if I've already brought this up in my last review, because as I was editing that, I probably recorded a quick clip to bring up something I had realized, where Days of Future Past had slightly set up a new rebooted timeline. Yes, the X-Men did succeed on saving everybody at the end of Days of Future Past, but while that had changed everything for the timeline there, it also created a new timeline that would basically be the rebooted timeline. Because technically should be in the prequel era for these movies, but it's now become like the rebooted era for these X-Men movies, to where 20th Century Fox clearly wanted to make more movies, so I could get some chimichanga, if you know what I mean. But still though, my biggest negative for the X-Men franchise is how messed up the timeline is with certain storylines and certain characters here and there. But honestly, I overall enjoyed the movie. My nitpicks would probably be when Quicksilver didn't tell Magneto that he was his son, which I'm gonna get off topic real quick. I am gonna bring this up for when I cover a review for Avengers Age of Ultron, most likely next year as I had planned it. And that is that should have been our sign that the mutants were finally coming, because technically, Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch are mutants. They are X-Men characters. Well, they're not part of the X-Men, but they are mutants. What blows my mind knowing about those two twins is that they're supposed to be the children of Magneto. I don't know when I found out about that. That was probably 3 years ago, I'm assuming. But obviously, the MCU have done a few changes here and there with some storylines on some Marvel characters, but I'm gonna probably say that when I cover Age of Ultron. But it's kind of funny how we have two different Quicksilvers and like two different Marvel properties. I mean, back then, I didn't know how these movies had connected in the MCU, or if they're even connected at all. Now, obviously, we know they're not connected thanks to the multiverse, which is kind of interesting being in the multiverse era. I do miss the Infinity Stone era, where I'd just be obsessed about the Infinity Stones, especially wanting to know where the hell the Soul Stone was at during these MCU movies. But no, I thought that was kind of stupid that Quicksilver just didn't tell him that he was his son. Like, he could have pulled an Uno reverse on I Am Your Father from Empire Strikes Back. But yeah, we don't get a follow-up on that storyline, unfortunately, especially in Dark Phoenix. But my main reason I'm not giving this an 8 out of 10 is because there's just one scene that I just, I'm not letting that slide, because it's just devastating to watch. And that was when Magneto had lost his family. But when I rewatched it recently, I had noticed that the cops had accidentally killed Magneto's family, as that one cop just shot the arrow because he was scared of these birds that were controlled by his mutant daughter. And you know that phrase where they say you hit 2 birds with 1 stone? Yeah, well, that cop killed his wife and daughter with 1 arrow. And I just honestly felt bad for Magneto. That was just devastating to watch, because he had lost his, he just lost his family. And I'm just not letting that slide. That was devastating to watch. And I just felt bad for Magneto, as like I've mentioned before, I've come to sympathize with him even more, because, he's probably one of my favorite X-Men villains, as I've come to realize now. But yeah, he tried Charles' way, and honestly, he wants revenge, and he becomes part of Apocalypse's 4 Horsemen, which, now having to watch the 90s show, I now see about this whole Apocalypse and the 4 Horsemen thing. I mean, not that I didn't get that back then, I didn't know much about Apocalypse. Apparently, Apocalypse is supposed to be the Thanos of the X-Men, according to Doomblazer, which I appreciate knowing that information, because I wasn't sure, because as I was watching the X-Men 90s show, I didn't know which of these villains could be, which one of these is, the Thanos level threat. I'm assuming Apocalypse is, the Thanos level threat, and maybe Mr. Sinister is, the Ultron level threat. But speaking about Apocalypse, I did like Oscar Isaac playing the role, which it's crazy how he's got 3 different Marvel roles, which would be Apocalypse, Moon Knight, then Spider-Man 2099. Well, he voices the character, but hey, there's a chance we could see him in live action. But man, props to Oscar Isaac, because he just owns these Marvel roles. Well, maybe Apocalypse might be his weakest, but again, I do like seeing him play Apocalypse in this movie. But since I keep saying that these X-Men characters are done dirty thanks to Fox, and that the 90s X-Men show is just better, I'm just gonna say that Apocalypse from the 90s show is better than the live action adaptation. Then again, that dude was a straight-up menace in the animated series. But yeah, I did dig Oscar Isaac playing the role, though. What are my highlights for the movie? Oh. Give 1 second, please. For starters, seeing Weapon X kick ass! I honestly got so hyped up seeing the Wolverine claws in the second trailer of Apocalypse when I checked it out on YouTube 8 years ago. And I cannot believe I didn't saw this movie in theaters. How did I not see this movie in theaters? What was I doing in May 2016? Oh, wait, I think I was watching Captain America Civil War at the time. I just realized that. But yeah, even though Hugh Jackman has, a cameo in this movie, it's still fun seeing them just go full beast mode as Weapon X. I don't know much storylines. I mean, I got to see it all play out in the animated series, especially with the whole Weapon X storyline. But it is definitely cool seeing Weapon X in live action, and just seeing Wolverine just kill those bad guys and just blood splatter. I mean, they're technically off kills, but we do get to have, like, blood sequences here and there. I'd say that's a taste of, like, the R-rated Wolverine. We get to see the whole thing in Logan, and then we're going to see it again with Deadpool Wolverine, as that movie's going to be rated R, and he's going to be slashing bodies. But no, Weapon X was definitely one of my favorite scenes of this movie. As for another scene I brought up in the last review, that whole Quicksilver sequence of where he saved everyone from the mansion and that music Sweet Dreams playing in the background, chef's kiss. I always keep watching that scene on YouTube because it was just one of my favorite scenes from X-Men Apocalypse. Although RIP to Scott Summers' brother, who I was shocked to find out that his last name was Summers. You know, in First Class, I'm like, wait a second. He's got the last name of Scott Summers. Is he related to Cyclops? And yeah, I do find out that they are both brothers, and that was part of the show. Because in the 90s show, Cyclops did had two parents, a mom and dad, and a brother that was brought up in, I think, season 3 or 4. But in live action form, we just only see the brother sadly get killed off. R.I.P. Oh, speaking about Cyclops, I did like the actor that played Cyclops. I know Cyclops was done dirty, especially in the original trilogy, but I think he's okay in this movie, as far as I know. I do like the new cast that we have for the prequel universe / reboot of the X-Men timeline. Oh god, these timelines, man. I can't. It's so frustrating. But seeing Jean Grey become the Phoenix to kick Apocalypse's ass was definitely fun to watch. Which I should have known that was going to lead into the Dark Phoenix storyline once again in the next movie. Which I've been following updates on that ever since I watched Apocalypse. And I guess that was probably on my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2019. I think. I don't know. But yeah, the actors that play Charles Xavier and Magneto, they are still awesome in their roles for this movie. Especially for the actor that plays Magneto. No, like, I could say that's perfect casting there. Like, no, the dude, he most likely carries these X-Men movies, and just, again, Magneto's probably my favorite X-Men villain since I watched the 90s show and X-Men 97. But I'm not going to go on YouTube to see why no one liked this movie, because honestly, I had fun with it overall. But, oh my god, this I had to save for last, because there's no way that, no, that's just, are you kidding me? So the movie ends with the X-Men in the training room. I think it's called the training room. I forgot what was it called. But basically they're about to start training. But the craziest thing of this ending is that they are in their comic accurate costumes. Are you kidding me? Just having to rewatch it again, I was shocked to see that in live action. And Cyclops actually looks badass in his comic accurate costume. Like, I cannot believe this movie had ended with them in comic accurate costumes. Just to ditch those and wear what I would consider to be the laziest X-Men costumes I've seen in the next movie. Now, I'm aware that Bryan Singer has mentioned something that he's not a fan of how they look like in costumes in the comics, and it is why he had the X-Men wear black leather. Yeah, they look cool in black leather, but as I've now become older and I just watched 5 seasons of an animated series plus the revival show of X-Men 97, Marvel Studios, you better give us comic accurate costumes of the X-Men. Like, take Hugh Jackman's costume. Like, people have been dying for this. I seriously did not think we'd ever get this in a million years. I still can't believe that this is real. And Professor X finally does have a bullet head in this movie, so just like, are you kidding me? Okay, I've already talked too much about Apocalypse. I'm gonna give my rating a 7.5 out of 10. I overall had fun with it. Sure, it's not perfect, and yeah, like I mentioned earlier, it gives off The Last Stand vibes, but it's probably better than The Last Stand. Like, you will see where I have these X-Men movies in my ranking list. But man, they should have just ended it off with Apocalypse, because I don't know if Dark Phoenix is disappointing or one of the worst movies I saw in 2019, or a bit of both. No, it's a bit of both, because not only was it a disappointing movie that I was anticipating to see 5 years ago, but it is what I would consider to be the worst X-Men movie of the entire series. There you go, folks. You have your answer. Dark Phoenix is what I would consider to be the worst X-Men movie in this entire series. Well, I have Days of Future Past as the best. Dark Phoenix is the worst. It's much more worse than X-Men Origins and The Last Stand. Honestly, it makes me want to give higher ratings for Apocalypse, The Last Stand, and X-Men Origins. So yeah, I didn't get to see this movie in theaters, and I remember my grandpa saying that he had watched it and wasn't a fan of it, so I watched it at my grandparents' place in their living room, probably around November of 2019. And the only thing I remember was that I sadly was not a fan of it. So I was intrigued to see if my opinion would change having to rewatch it, because I had only seen it once. Now I've seen it twice, as of right now. And, yeah, no, my opinion has not changed, and I was disappointed in my first viewing. Being older now, and having to rewatch this again, I'm just feeling pissed. Look, I would have accepted the messy timeline if they had ended with X-Men Apocalypse, but this movie feels totally unnecessary. I don't know why they made this, because this movie just completely screws up the damn timeline. Then again, this is supposed to be the rebooted timeline of the X-Men movies. Now, where do I even begin on my negatives? Because I honestly just have negatives for this movie. I don't know if I have any pros, other than that the last act of the movie was the most entertaining I've had. Now, I know that they couldn't shelve this movie because, one, they had already filmed this movie. And technically 2019 was the year that Disney had bought Fox, and they couldn't have shelved Dark Phoenix or the New Mutants because those movies were already done filming and everything, so they had to release those and just like, okay, we know they're not gonna like these, but we have to release them, so release them, we'll deal with whatever negatives they have, or just, I don't know. But I want to know whose idea it was to make Dark Phoenix, because, again, this feels completely unnecessary to the X-Men series. And it just screws up the whole damn timeline, because one Mystique dies, that totally affects the whole thing, because Mystique is supposed to be alive in the original trilogy. Then again, this is supposed to be a rebooted timeline. Which, these timelines, man, I can't. I'm gonna lose my insanity having to process all of this shit. Wanna know what's crazy to me? Is the fact that 20th Century Fox had fumbled the Dark Phoenix storyline twice in 2 different movies, basically in 2 different time periods. I was aware that, wait a second, this feels like it's giving off that Dark Phoenix, like, did The Last Stand do this? Whose idea was it to just do the storyline again? Like, it's crazy that they fumbled it twice. I mean, technically in this movie, they do like a better adaptation of how Jean was supposed to get the Dark Phoenix, because in the series, she gets it in space, so I don't even know which is better on the Dark Phoenix storyline. The Last Stand or just Dark Phoenix? You know, I'm glad that Marvel Studios has the rights to the X-Men characters, because I pray to God they adapt the storyline well. I mean, I know folks don't want the storyline adapted, but I have faith in Marvel. So, yeah, once we enter, like, the Mutant Saga, which, yeah, that's totally going to be in the next saga after the Multiverse Saga, they need to have the Dark Phoenix as, like, a big level movie, like Infinity War or Endgame. Like the Dark Phoenix Saga or whatever. I don't know. I'm definitely intrigued to see what they're going to do with the X-Men and the MCU, but again, I pray to God that the MCU does the storyline justice, because you know what they say, 3rd time's the charm. But again, my biggest negative with this franchise is the damn timeline, because like, there's like certain moments here and there that like screw up certain points in the timeline. I mean, like I said, I know this is supposed to be like the rebooted timeline after Days of Future Past, but just, oh my God, that's just my biggest frustration with this franchise. Especially with X-Men Origins, which, oh God, don't get me started there. Oh wait, I'm about to talk about that in part 4. But the 3 X-Men movies I would consider bad in the series are Dark Phoenix, X-Men Origins, and then The Last Stand. This just makes those movies look like masterpieces, I guess. Like, just out of the bad X-Men movies, Dark Phoenix is the worst of them. And I would just prefer Origins, or The Last Stand, or Apocalypse. I mean, not to say I don't think that's bad. Other folks claim it's bad, but like, X-Men Apocalypse was better than Dark Phoenix. Also, why the hell did they sideline Quicksilver? More importantly, why the hell did they ditch the common accurate costumes? I mean, I don't know what is the worst X-Men suits I've seen. I mean, I guess I forgot to mention this, that I wasn't a fan of the suits they were wearing in Days of Future Past, but I don't know which word to pick for the suits in Dark Phoenix. Whether the worst or laziest suits, because actually, they're probably a bit of both. I cannot believe they ditched the common accurate costumes and went to what I think are the laziest X-Men suits I have seen, because like, I get the X, but just like 5 years ago, I'm like, okay, not sure if I'm vibing with this design. Also, I was not big on the villain in this movie, which I have no idea who the hell the Debari are. I don't recall hearing about them or seeing them in the X-Men 90s show. Actually, I may just go with The Last Stand on this, even though they do it better on how Jean Grey gets her powers in this movie, but just like, no, The Last Stand. Because, again, this just feels unnecessary. I would have been fine if they ended with Apocalypse, but just like, no, this movie just feels dull, and it just feels messy. It's just a messy mess of a movie. And holy cow, I did not expect to go off like that. I guess I really am just not a fan of this movie. Now, I don't even know what's the worst comic book movie of all time, either X-Men Origins or this. Unless they're both in that category, but at least Hugh Jackman carries X-Men Origins. He's not even in this movie. In fact, I don't think he would have saved it for me if he were in this movie. It's probably a good thing he was retired at the time when this came out. But my rating is going to be a 4.5 out of 10. It would be a 4 or lower, but the reason I'm giving it a 0.5 is because of that final battle at the train sequence. That was entertaining for me, but overall, Dark Phoenix is either the worst or most disappointing movie of 2019. The other superhero movies we got in 2019 are 10 times better than Dark Phoenix, especially Avengers Endgame. Okay, now we're done with Dark Phoenix. Let's talk about the New Mutants, which I know I did a review on this, but this is my review for the movie, so yeah, I'm going to try to make this quick and snappy, hopefully, because I do not want to cause storage for this. I'm already past the minute. We're like 30 minutes into this review. Oh god, editing this video is going to be a pain in my ass. So I know I'm not supposed to watch this at all for this marathon because it's not necessary for Deadpool Wolverine, but I watched it for the fun of it. Plus, I like to do marathons on movies and prep for a new movie coming out based on the franchise, I guess. But before I talk about my quick thoughts, my experience with the movie, so I remember there was a trailer that came out, and all I got was like, oh, is this a horror movie? Wait a minute, it is Marvel related, because I knew the Mutants was like, wait, New Mutants, is this an X-Men movie? But my biggest takeaway from watching this trailer was that originally it was supposed to come out on my birthday in 2018, which, oh my god, I still can't believe it. Now, of course, it didn't come out on my birthday, because it got delayed like so many times. It was supposed to come out in 2018 of my birthday, my 12th birthday, but then finally came out in August of 2020, which was the only Marvel movie that came out during that time period where we didn't get much movies in 2020 because of the coronavirus. Now, I am aware that not many people like this movie, as I guess as generic and cliche. Yeah, it probably, but is it 10 times better than Dark Phoenix? Oh, hell to the yes, because that movie just felt totally unnecessary. But I actually do like the New Mutants. Sure, it ain't great, but it's entertaining enough. I probably gave it like a 7 out of 10 back for my first viewing, as I've now seen this twice, as of recently. But right now, my rating is probably going to be like a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. Well, it'll probably be in between. And I do like the small cast we have for this movie, mainly for the New Mutants that we get introduced. Now, I didn't care much for the villain, by the way, but I was surprised that there was a Logan connection in this movie. There's a scene where one of the characters is like doing like a test, and she sees a vision of basically scenes that they used from the Logan movie for this film. And I'm assuming this had to have been taking place before or after Logan. I don't know where this entirely fits into the timeline of the X-Men films, but I honestly don't recall seeing that the first time I saw this movie. But I definitely think this movie had potential. Like, for example, the teaser trailer we got back in 2017 was giving me vibes that this was going to be a horror movie. A superhero horror movie. Now, there are scary moments, but it's not that scary. But I would have been down for a horror superhero film, unless you want to count Multiverse of Madness being the first. But yeah, this would technically be the last Fox movie we get from them since, like I mentioned earlier, 2019 Disney bought 20th Century Fox, and they could have shelved Dark Phoenix or The Mutant Mutants, but they couldn't because those movies were already done filming. So they had to release those, and basically Disney didn't care if those didn't get good reviews or whatever. And I could see why Disney would have not released this movie, because there's a lesbian couple in here, and Disney clearly ain't down for that. I actually didn't mind it. I kind of thought it was cute and adorable. But it is a shame that we don't get to see these mutants again, as I could see the potential of, like, say we either got a sequel or a series, we would have seen their adventures and how they're trying to, like, survive together as a group. But probably best that it all ended here with the New Mutants. Now, folks will want to forget about this movie's existence and put it in the category of worst comic book movie of all time, but I really didn't mind it. I did actually like the movie. Again, it's not great. It's definitely not one of X-Men's best movies, but again, it's better than Dark Phoenix, and that's my personal opinion. It definitely had potential, and it could have been worse. Hell, it could have been worse than Dark Phoenix, but glad it wasn't. At least it was finally released into theaters, because it looked like this movie had gotten the Morbius treatment, because god dang! I'm still going to be forever shocked that this movie was originally supposed to come out on my birthday 6 years ago. But with that being said, those are just my thoughts on X-Men Apocalypse, X-Men Dark Phoenix, and the New Mutants. Be sure to let me know your thoughts, comments below, and would you agree with me that Dark Phoenix is the worst movie, or do you prefer the New Mutants being the worst movie, or Apocalypse? I don't know. Let me know what you think is the worst X-Men movie we've gotten in the series. But yeah, that's 3 reviews down, 2 more to go with the Wolverine trilogy and the Deadpool movies. This is gonna be a pain in the ass to edit this video. But hey, if this helps me stay away from YouTube to avoid spoilers for Deadpool Wolverine, yeah, I'm down. I'll have to suck it up on the storage issue and figure out what to do about that. But as always, I'll see you guys in the next X-Men review. Peace out.